Hi, welcome back to This Reader's Life. My name is Stephanie, and this is a channel where we talk about books and other blessings. And today is January 31st. I'll probably put this video out tomorrow, which will be Sunday, February 1st. January kind of whooshed by. It's been very cold here, and so reading's been real. Reading has been a great pastime, and I don't feel guilty about spending too much of my time reading. This week, so much is going on in the world that being able to take a break from media and take a break from everything that's going on has been super helpful for me. I don't know if other people, I do know because I'm hearing some now from different booktubers who are so disturbed and distressed by the things that are going on. My faith comes into play a lot for me, and so my ultimate, I think ultimately we can be okay. So I don't. So I've read 2 books this week, and before we get started, I'm going to give you a quote that I found that I feel like is so relatable right now. I'll read you the quote, which is by Mason Cooley, who was known for aphorisms. And I don't know how you get to be known for aphorisms, but he was a college professor, and as far as I know, he never wrote a book. So I don't know why his aphorisms became well known. I don't know what created that. But anyway, I did think it's a great quote, and it's about reading, which is reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are. And that quote because it for 2 reasons. Because right now the world is a hard place, and I won't go into lots of details about that, but I think everyone has a sense of the things that are happening in this world are creating such despair on so many levels for so many people. So cold here in Kansas. There have been days where it never got more than about 4 degrees, and this has been going on for a while. It is getting better, but we had some snow, we had some wind, we had some really cold days. We never lost power or anything like that. But reading is such it's an escape, and it's a release, and it's a soft place for me to go when things feel hard, and the world does feel hard right now. So the first book that I read was Orbital by Samantha Harvey. It is a book that was written in 2023. It won the Booker Prize in 2024, and it is a book about 6 astronauts. It's considered science fiction. And I would consider it science fiction light. I don't feel like, it wasn't plot driven, and it was science fiction because it's about 6 fictional astronauts that are on the International Space Station, and what happens while they're there. But to be real honest, from a plot standpoint or from an interaction point, not a whole lot happens. However, this is so beautifully written as to me as almost a sonnet, a love poem to the earth, and the book takes place over 24 hours. During that time, the space station makes 16 orbits around the earth, and there are 16 chapters in the book. The astronauts are 4 men and 2 women from 5 different countries. We've got Britain, Russia, Italy, Japan, and the United States. This story is sort of gives you biographies of each character as to their past and how they came to be interested in going to space. Not so much how they became astronauts, but how they decided that was their goal. And those stories are all interesting. And again, there's not a lot that happens. They do, I guess, part of what you have the time to do there is to look out the windows and look at the earth as a, a place that's existing for a period of time without you, um, and and how the people that they've left behind are experiencing earth, and they are experiencing space. So I enjoyed that part of the book. My favorite, one of my very favorite things that happen in this book is that they do talk a little bit about what their different duties are while they're there and how it feels to be in space, um, eating and sleeping, and um, what happens to their bodies and how their bones can change, and how everything can change, and how you come back um, different from how you went on, both physically and mentally. And that one of the things that they have on the just a fun part to me was, one of the things is that they have mice on the space station, and one of the girls who is taking care of the mice, she talks to them, and she keeps track of them, and does all the different measurements and so on and so forth. And they're not all the mice are being treated in the same way, and she's obviously taking notes and absorbing that. But she also talks to them, and she warns them that even though they're all terminal, that it would be okay for them to let go of the sides of their cages, because they'll just float and they'll be safe if they do that. So there was something so sweet in that. I'm an animal lover, I guess. Anyway, as it was, it's just a tiny snippet out of the book. Most of it is the view of the earth from a distance. So um, it was a very good book. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that it won the Booker. And I also think one of the things that's really cool about the book is that Samantha Harvey, while she was writing it, she kept a continuous live view of the International Space Station. She watched that for really pretty much the whole time that she wrote the book, which makes me want to go look at Earth from a live feed of the International Space Station, which I've not done, and I'm afraid if I do, I'll never do anything else, because it sounds so fascinating to me and just utterly gorgeous. But anyway, that's what Orbital was all about. The second book that I read was Buckeye. It's called A Sweeping Saga. It is not going to turn out to be one of my favorites, I would say. It's well written. It did hold my interest, but almost not. Early on, the parts that were slow were very slow, and then the parts that were interesting were very, very interesting. So that part was hard for me. I almost gave up early on. This is a story that takes place from 1940 to about 1975, probably, World War II until the Vietnam War, and it's about two families, two couples, basically. We have Cal and Becky, who, and they all live in the same small town in Ohio, and it's kind of Americana is the word that comes to my mind when I think about it. It's just indicative of the times in each decade, and it Ryan certainly illustrates those times. What things were like during those times. We start with Cal, who is married to Becky. Cal he does not go to World War II because he has a disability, in that he was born with a disability, in that his one leg is 2 inches shorter than the other, and he eventually has a block shoe, which helps a great deal. But he lacks self-confidence. He's a very passive character. He is he sort of just lets life happen to him. Becky is his wife. She is also raised in the same small town, a little bit younger than him, and she's very pragmatic. She's very practical. She's fairly outspoken, and she has a gift that she certainly didn't ask for. She discovers it when she's a young child, and that is that she has the ability to communicate with the dead. She can't see the future, she's not clairvoyant, but she is able to communicate with the dead, either through seances or through a dark room. And during World War II, she sees that as an opportunity to open her home to people, and she runs an ad in the paper and makes appointments for people to come to her home, um, who want to in some way make contact with the dead. She does not charge for it, and it creates a bit of a rift in her marriage. Her husband's not even sure that he believes it. Cal is not sure that he even believes it, and she has a big problem with that. So that's one couple. They also have a child, and after the first child, Becky is told that they can't have any more. So that's them in their life in that town to start with. And then there is Margaret and Felix, and Margaret is you get quite a bit of her background in that she was left as a as an infant on the doorsteps of an orphanage, and she's taken in there by a woman who runs the orphanage, who sort of takes her under her wing, and is to, Margaret is never adopted, but she certainly has a lot of love early on in her life because of the woman who runs the orphanage, whose name is Lydia. And but as soon as she's old enough, Margaret leaves. She's very bothered and both angry and sad about the fact that that her mother left her. She finds that so hard to understand, and it certainly influences the rest of her life. She's a very beautiful woman. She very desperately wants to be loved, and to me, she's very selfish. She makes horrible choices in life, and but she does end up married to Felix, and Felix is my favorite character the in the entire book. And Felix is really just sort of a victim of his time. He's very handsome. He's a good person in my estimation. He's a good guy, um, and again, he was just born at the wrong time in a lot of ways. He does go to World War II. He has amazing experiences there. He's in the Navy. His ship eventually goes down. It is torpedoed, and he is a survivor. He comes home. He and Margaret have a child as well. And then at some point in this story, the two families intertwine, and first it's sort of gradual, and then eventually it is all of them are brought together in a way that becomes a secret. And besides that secret, which is the big secret, there are other secrets that run that they're sort of woven into the story. But overall, and I'm not going to say more than that. You don't want any spoilers for this, because it's certainly an interesting read. I was disappointed in a couple of ways. First, I didn't like most of the characters. I didn't like them. I thought Becky was snippy and hard to get along with. I thought Cal was too passive. He just didn't stand up for himself. And Margaret was selfish, incredibly selfish. There is a scene that is so heartbreaking in how selfish she is in this book that I almost stopped reading. Um, and and Felix, I don't think selfish is not the right word. I really see him as a victim throughout. So I did like Felix. There's a couple of peripheral characters that are enjoyable, and I kept feeling like that at some point there would be a redemption. The secret does eventually come out, and there is a sort of resolution, but the ending disappointed me. I felt like it could have. I wanted it to be better, and I wanted someone to come away with something valuable from it, and I didn't feel like that happened. So again, people loved this book, so I perhaps I'm missing something, but from my standpoint, it was well written. it was maybe a little cliched. It was, at times it was predictable, um, but it left me just a little cold and a little flat. So that's what I'm going to say about Buckeye. The other thing that I'll say about Buckeye, which doesn't have anything to do with the book, but Ohio is the Buckeye state, and a Buckeye is actually, I believe it's a seed. It's not a fruit. It's toxic actually, but a Buckeye is something that drops off of the Buckeye tree every year, and I have a Buckeye, which just sounds really silly, but um, this is what a Buckeye looks like, and I'll because I'm going to go down that rabbit hole. I'm going to tell you how this Buckeye came into my life, but here it is. I hope that it focuses for you, and I'll try to hold it so that you can see it. Um, and this is a Buckeye, and it's Native Americans thought that it looked like like the eye of a deer or a buck. So that's with that little tan circle. And so that is why it is called a Buckeye. But it also has a superstition behind it of good luck and protection. And that's sort of a Native American belief. And when I was when my parents were young, before they were married, I think, I don't know how he acquired them, but my dad had two Buckeyes, and I don't know if they came across these someplace. They were always in Kansas, or in the South, but they were certainly never in Ohio. Um, but he acquired two Buckeyes. He gave one to my mother, and he kept one in his pocket. And it was sort of a tradition to carry it in your pocket, where I remember my mother's being in the bottom of her purse, and my dad's was in his pocket a lot, I think. And that's the story of the Buckeyes, is that I can remember seeing my dad's on his dresser in the evenings, and my mom's was in her purse, but they always had them with them. And they're both gone now. My sister has one of the Buckeyes, and I have the other Buckeye. And so I think that it's a special story, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to my Buckeye. I don't know that it ever brought anybody any luck, or that it ever brought anybody any protection, but it was a lovely sentiment between my parents. So that is that's what I've got as far as my reads go, and as far as my rabbit hole stories that I always have to tell. And for the future, I'm planning to read some poetry. I've chosen Billy Collins to kind of do a little study on. So I'll be talking about that. I am reading The Ivy Tree by Mary Stewart, and I'm also reading Middlemarch by George Eliot. And actually, I'm listening to both of those. And so far, I'm enjoying both of them. The Ivy Tree is romantic suspense, and Middlemarch is it's a classic that I just have never. It's long. It's 31 hours of listening, and I'm looking forward to it. So I'll also talk more about. I have a tag planned for my next video, and then after that, poetry, and also my February pile of possibilities. I'll try to get to that in the next video. I have so many thoughts, and I'm not reading, so I'm looking back. I mean, I'm not buying books, so I'm looking back through my to be reads and unfinished books that have been on the shelf or on the Kindle shelf for a while. Anyway, until we meet again, especially right now, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and be kind to the planet. Y'all have a blessed day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.